just been outside doing a bunch of stuff, so the house is warm, and I will acclimatize to that warm temperature. I'll probably take that jacket off. My wife, when I wear this jacket, she tells me it offends her. It's like offensive to wear such a warm jacket inside. Right.
Yeah. Barb's, nice to meet you. We've been emailing.
Thanks, and it's very lovely to finally meet you as well. Rick
Yeah.
has told me all about the good stuff on there, and I'm very excited to basically, yeah, we talk about Storybook on there. And I know that we talked about as well for another call for June. So we can just confirm by email on when the date would be
Sure.
best for you. But for today, I'm very excited because, yeah, you're right. It definitely will streamline everything on there. Because for the photographers as well, with us, they always plan to have a turnkey solution to make things easier for them. So if our VAs have this kind of info with them as well, and they know how to
Yeah.
basically handle it, then yeah, it's gonna make everyone's lives so much easier.
Love it.
And Nathan, we did tell you in advance that almost nobody comes on these calls, but they do watch the replays. I see the stats in the dashboard. I think because there's no incentive for them to watch it live typically, so they pick a time to watch it later. So
Okay.
apology if it's going to be a small group.
No worries. That's par for the course for most of what we do as well. So that's totally fine.
How's this last week been?
I had a triple this past weekend. Triple wedding, yeah.
Triple bypass?
No, triple bypass might have been more relaxing than a triple wedding.
So you still got it in you for a triple banger.
Yeah,
right?
It was two of my own, and then I was helping out a friend on Saturday. So really easy triple, all said and done. But yeah, this week I've been playing catch up and taking care of some things that fell by the wayside this past week. So that
You're doing
happens.
well if you had a triple header and are able to catch up on stuff. That doesn't typically happen. Usually, if you're doing 3 weddings, you're either exhausted or flat out trying to get previews back or whatever.
Yeah. Just I run everything through Aftershoot, and it's pretty spot on for me at this point. So I just go through and do a final call and a couple touch-ups and stuff. I still won't deliver the galleries right away, but not having to go through manually, 6,000 images or whatever it's very nice.
Did you? What about the culling? So you let Aftershoot do the culling as well?
I don't. No, I do that.
Yeah.
Basically, I'll edit the entire wedding. I'll send everything through my Aftershoot profile, and then I'll go through pretty quickly and just do kind of a final call. It typically takes me, from a full day, it takes me a couple hours to go through all of those images and clean up a few that maybe the white balance was messed up or I want to refine a little bit. So much easier than 10 years ago when you had to do everything manually.
Oh, dude, 100%. Yeah. I just remember a time when it was like, no, it's literally like 6 seconds for me to go from one photo to the next. Like, this is it's taking forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, sweet, man. Yeah, I also haven't found the culling to be reliable enough to let AI handle that.
Yeah.
But I'll typically I'll do like a first pass on the morning after the wedding and just pick out like the bangers, and then that's what I'll make the previews from. And then my editor jar will do the culling for me, run it through Aftershoot, and then he kind of does the touch ups. Then by the time it comes back to me, I'm just picking back black and whites basically.
Yeah. Love it.
Kevin, how you doing, man?
Hey, how's it going? Not bad.
Kevin's based in Canada.
Toronto, actually. Close enough.
Hard to keep track of everybody,
Yeah.
right? Nice to meet you, Kevin.
In terms of weddings, like the weddings that I booked in 2024 for 2025, it's picking up now. Like I'm starting to shoot it and actually do the weddings. In terms of bookings, I think our last conversation was about with the tariffs and what's happening financially in Canada. It's been really slow, even slower now. Yeah. In terms
Even
of
slower, even slower than none for March, I think.
Yeah, and I remember March and February there was like zero bookings at all. But at least in April, like I had, it's weird. I had eight bookings in April, but in May I have like one only. It's random.
It is strange when things are more random than you were. You're like, yeah, what is the cause of that? Okay. How about Nathan? How about yours, man? Lead wise, this year compared to this same time last year.
I have more bookings this year than I did last year. Last year was the slowest year I've ever had, partially on me because I'm focused on these other businesses that I run. And it's kind of like one of those things where when you take your foot off the gas with your own business, your own photography business, it's very easy for things to dry up quickly if you're not staying on top of it. So this year is much better than last year. Next year is still kind of slow, but it's just a slower booking cycle than it's been in the past.
I find that people are booking last minute now. I'm getting a lot of last minute bookings for 2025
Yeah.
than I did in 2024. Very last minute, like a month or 2 months, maybe even 3 months out.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
those.
I started doing some paid Google ads. A friend of mine is running my campaign and he books 15 to 20 weddings a month. So he's handling a lot of the ad stuff. But like when you start doing Google ads or any type of ads, takes time for Google to figure out exactly what you're looking for and build up the algorithm and all this techie nonsense that I have no idea what's going on. But he basically said, "Hey, just stay with the course and, it'll start picking up more." I'm probably not going to get to 15 or 20 a month like he does. We'll see how it goes.
What's the crux of the ad? Is it like a free engagement shoot? Is it just, hey, I'm awesome, check me out? Like what's the crux
Yeah,
of
a
the
little bit of
headline there?
both. So I think he has like 20 different ad sets going and just
Right.
A/B testing things constantly at this point. He doesn't mess with his ads much anymore because they work. He's getting 15 to 20 a month bookings, not just leads. But right now it's just kind of figuring out, what is attractive about, the ads he's building for me that would attract the kind of clients that I'm looking for. So
How much? What is the ad budget like roughly?
I'm doing $1,000 a month right now.
Okay. What about
Uh,
him? Probably like five or more.
I think he's doing 2,500 a month US dollars. So
And
yeah,
it's just Google Ads. It's not Insta and Facebook.
no, so he only does Google and the purpose behind that is people that are doing Google searches are intentionally looking for photographers and videographers. Whereas on Instagram or Facebook, you're just kind of interrupting people as they scroll. So it's that kind of thinking is like he'd rather go after people that are intentionally looking for, his services. What we've been talking about is then doing retargeting campaigns on Facebook. Once they've been on our site, then dropping in ads to try to nurture them later on in the process. So he's actually going to try that for his own business and see if he can cut some of his Google budget, put some into Facebook and have it be a net decrease. It's better for him to practice on his account
Yeah,
than
bro.
to practice on my
And
account.
when you've
So
nailed it, come and let me know.
yeah,
Yeah, that's rad. Because often, I don't know, I always thought Google Ads wise, I like the idea of going after the keywords of the venues you were like shooting at and that you're
yeah,
good at shooting at, just because it's a lot less competitive than, Toronto wedding photographer. But if you look going for the venue, then typically, obviously, they're also like if they're at the looking for venue stage, then they haven't probably not at the booking the photographer stage, so it's just getting in that step earlier with maybe like a venue guide or something like that. But
right.
anyway, it was
Yeah.
just a concept, but otherwise untested. Mm.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of photographers do that. I have about 20, 25 individual pages on my site for all of the venues that I like working at. And they're all kind of built off of the same template that I put together where just give some basic information about the venue, how many guests they can facilitate, what the parking situation is like, how close are hotels, that type of thing. Make it a real resource for couples, but then kind of sprinkle in some of the images that I've done at that venue and
Exactly, man.
why I
Yeah.
love the venue and those types of things.
And boom, you're an authority on the venue. And so it's like a risk
Yeah,
not going with you.
yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, I like the soft kind of directing towards that page as opposed to book my wedding photography. Anyway, but I speak with that knowledge, so something I shouldn't do. All right, man. Nathan,
yeah.
ready to take us away?
Yep. I can share my screen when you want me to.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Just hit present here. Can you see it all right?
Yes.
Yep.
Perfect. So today we're going to be talking about empathetic IPS. In-person sales, specifically for albums and wall art, can kind of be a hot button topic for a lot of photographers. Some love it and they've had success with it. Others have heard terrible things about it being pushy or aggressive. And there's a way to do it in a way that elevates your brands, increases the revenue that you're making per client, and leads to a lot of referrals. So we're going to talk about some of the negative things that people think about IPS, but we're mainly going to focus on how it can be a really great tool for photographers to elevate their client experience, grow their brands, make more money, and potentially not have to lift a finger to do it. So diving in a little bit about me, I'm a wedding photographer in the Philadelphia area. I've been shooting weddings for about 18 years. I'm the founder of Shoot With Me, which is a hiring app for photographers and videographers to find and hire talent for their jobs and then manage that talent within the platform. I'm also the co-owner of Storybook Design Co. It's a done-for-you IPS service for business-minded photographers who don't want to do IPS on their own. We'll talk about that a little later on. Aside from that, I am married, 4 kids, 4 teenage kids. They keep our lives busy, driving them around to all their different places, and have a lot of random hobbies and curiosities. You can read them at the bottom if you care, skip over it if you don't. Diving in, so we're going to talk today about why photographers often avoid albums, prints, and sales in general, how to empathetically serve your clients and couples from start to finish. This is applicable to weddings, obviously, but also to mitzvahs and quinceañeras. Basically, anytime that you do a job where the client would want physical prints, you can use this methodology to do that. And then we're going to talk about how to create an amazing experience for your couples that leads to referrals. Because if you're just serving your clients with albums and you're not thinking about how it can lead to building your business on the back end through referrals and building relationships, getting more eyeballs on your service, you're missing a really great opportunity. Then we're going to talk about the done-for-you options that really serve photographers that don't want to build out their own system. They can work with us to have us handle it for them as a white label service. So let's dive in. So why photographers avoid albums? So there's a lot of reasons. Sometimes it's they don't have the time or energy to build out the system. It's not like you can just say, hey, I offer albums and we'll figure it out on the back end. Oftentimes what happens is photographers have a million things they need to get done, and building out systems in their business that serve them and their clients at high level can feel overwhelming. And it's easy to sometimes say, oh, I'm just going to post some stuff in a Facebook group. I'm going to wing it or whatever. And then they ultimately don't create a service for their clients that serves them at a high level, right? It adds stress to them even thinking about building out those systems. Other times, they just simply don't have the time to do IPS with their clients. They have a family, they have hobbies, they have things going on. And most of the time, these meetings take place at nighttime. The clients get home from work, they schedule a call for 7 p.m., and you want to be doing other things at that time. It's not normal for couples to have availability in the middle of the day. So it's that dichotomy that sometimes leads to photographers saying, you know what, I'm just going to let the couple figure it out on Shutterfly or Snapfish or a consumer thing. Or even they might, in their gallery service, they might have a self-serve album process. I've talked to couples that have gone through those. It's not a fun or enjoyable process for them. It's still, for some photographers, it's a better option than not offering albums at all. So that's a reason some photographers might avoid it. Others are photographer-focused, artist-focused photographers. They love the art behind it, but they don't love the business side. So they don't love communicating with their couples about the products and options that can really serve the couple at a high level. They also don't want to feel salesy. They just have this mindset that offering additional products to their couples is a turnoff. Some photographers just have a block there and they don't want to go down that road. So no systems in place, no time to do it, or they hate selling. Those are some of the main reasons photographers avoid it. I'm sure there's others. So empathetically serving clients, what it is not. It's not a bait and switch situation where you say, hey, couple, you're getting the wedding album. And then you get to the IPS meeting later on and you're like, all of a sudden, this album that I created for you is, $5,000. And the couple had no idea that the album that was being created for them was going to have an additional cost. Transparency with the price of albums, the options that are offered, they need to be communicated very early on in the process. in order for the couple to not have negative surprises. If you put yourself in that situation where you're having a contractor that gives you a quote for a bathroom remodel, and they say, yeah, it's going to be $6,000. And they get there and they start doing stuff and they're like, oh, well, this wasn't included and that wasn't included. And, we did this other thing and it's going to be another $5,000. You're going to be pissed off. That's not going to lead to a quality experience. So don't do any bait and switch stuff. When you actually get into the meeting, so like empathetically serving your clients is not pressuring them or guilting them into purchasing stuff that serves you but doesn't serve them. You want to make sure that they feel like they constantly have the keys and are driving the car. You can guide them in the process, but when they say, no, we don't want this spread in here, or no, our budget is this, work with them to do that. Don't pressure them into doing something that's going to lead to buyer's remorse. Also, creating a false sense of urgency will lead to buyer's remorse. One of the ways that I see this happen in IPS is sometimes photographers have gallery reveal sessions. It's an experience where the couple can see their images for the first time, and they might go to the studio of the photographer they're working with, or they might do it online. The photographer might send them a bottle of wine or send them some chocolates or whatever. They make a fun experience out of it. But if the couple is just seeing their images for the first time and then they're being coerced into doing the album design meeting right away, it can make the couple feel like they're being rushed along in the process and don't have time to really go through the images and decide which ones are ultimately the most important for them or not. So if you do a gallery reveal session, I highly recommend you separate it from the IPS meeting. Give them a week in between. We have photographers that we serve through Storybook that they do that gallery reveal session. Couples love it, and they know that the album design meeting is a separate experience that's going to address a different need that that couple has. So also, treating couples like their money is the ultimate goal for you is going to come across as desperate and in a way that shows that you don't have their best interests in mind. One of the things I always tell studios that we connect with is we're going to care for their clients, whether that couple is going to spend $8,000 with us or they're going to spend $0 with us. We don't want that experience to be, a crappier experience for the couple that just doesn't have the budget for their album versus the one that's going to be investing a lot in their album. That's a mindset shift that you have to have, because sometimes people are going through situations where somebody lost a job or they just bought a house, had a baby. They just don't have the income right now. But that couple might have a dozen friends that if you create a wonderful experience for them with the album design session, it's going to lead to referrals. Even if it doesn't lead to a huge sale in the moment, the downstream effects on how you treat them in that process is going to lead to those referrals. So what is empathetically serving your couples? So it's walking them through the entire process from the very beginning so they can decide for themselves what's best. One of the ways that we do this is when I'm on a consult call with my couples, or when I'm talking to a studio and advising them on what to do, how you talk about albums from the very beginning is going to get the couple excited about the process, or it's going to get them confused, right? So say, hey, we offer albums. Like, is this something that you've thought about? Whatever. I kind of gauge them on what ultimately they're looking to take away from their wedding photography experience. So I'm on the phone, I'm talking with a couple, and once I get to the point where we've built some rapport, and then I say, hey, what do you guys want to come away from your wedding photography experience with? What physical products do you want? Have you thought about wall art? Have you thought about albums? And I just kind of gauge it. And if they're like, hey, yeah, we're really interested in albums, I share with them what that process is going to look like. So I say, hey, if you add an album to your package, our base album is an 8x8 with 20 pages. And I tell them, this is the smallest album we can create. But then what happens is after the wedding, once I've delivered your images, I'm going to send you a link to schedule your album design meeting. So in that album design meeting, I'm going to come to you with a fully robust album design. So you have 20 pages included. I'm probably going to design 100 pages. And I'm going to design it in a way that really beautifully tells the story of the day. And then during that meeting, we're going to go through it together and we're going to make changes. We're going to remove spreads that you guys don't care about. We're going to keep the ones that you do. And you'll have the option to basically build your album with me, to be a part of the editing process, to make it exactly what you want it to be. You're going to have options to upgrade the size. You're going to have options to, get a display box, get parent albums, order wall art. And I walk them through what that album design meeting is going to be like. And I compare it to a home remodel situation or buying their dream car. I say, hey, when you go to the dealership, you have a base model of a car. And then the dealer is going to say, hey, you can add this feature and that feature and, whatever. And you're going to add some of those features and you're not going to add them all normally. Some people do, most people don't. But everybody kind of figures out what's important to them. They get those things. It's the same thing with the album design process. So some couples choose to get a ton of options. Some choose to just go with their base album. Whatever you guys want to do is totally cool. Oh yeah, that makes sense. That's great. Let's do that. So that's explaining the process from the very beginning so that when we do get to the album design meeting, they're not like, oh, Nathan, you didn't tell us this. We had no idea that there were going to be potential additional fees involved in this process. So that's being transparent from the very beginning. Listening to your couples about what they care about is going to go a very long way. When I have a consult call with a couple, I write down notes. I'm listening to them to hear about who's important to them, what part of their day is important. I want to collect as much info up front so that by the time the wedding day comes, I have that information to go into their wedding day and say, hey, grandma has cancer and, we don't know how much longer she's going to be around. So get a lot of pictures of her. This situation is happening. I listen to my couples at every stage of the process so that I'm informed on the wedding day to be able to capture the type of images that they're going to want. And if I just go into every day in a robotic manner and I'm just shooting the same thing every time, couples are going to love the work, but it's not going to be in a way that they feel like I specifically listen to them and their needs. And then viewing them as people you genuinely care about instead of dollar signs. It can be very easy to view an IPS session as, ooh, I'm going to make several $1,000s more on this by doing X, Y, and Z and getting the couple to say yes to things that they don't really want. But if I treat them like I genuinely am on their team to design the album of their dreams and stay within their budget, that's going to speak volumes to them. So then how do we do this well? Like I said before, transparency. From the first conversation, you need to outline what the entire process looks like. Your process might be different than mine, but whatever the process is, you need to be able to confidently communicate it to your couples in a way that makes sense to them. So whether you do X, Y, and Z or Z, Y, X, explain why it's a win for them. Obviously, you need to explain the timeline. So I'm going to shoot your wedding. I'm going to deliver your gallery. We're going to schedule the IPS meeting. We're going to meet. This is what's going to happen. Then I'm going to order your album. Walk them through that entire process. I do it at multiple stages throughout my client relationship with them. I do it when they are on that consult call. I do it before their wedding when I'm on the timeline call. And then when I deliver their gallery, I give them a heads up that, I'm going to schedule them shortly for their album. It's not like a couple can easily say, oh, Nathan, you never told us this. If they miss an email, it's no big deal. But because I have that many touch points along the way, they get to the album design meeting without having any surprises. One of the ways that we do this also is having an albums page on our website. So when I have that email that goes out to them that just kind of reminds them about the process, I can say, hey, if you want to deep dive into what all the things cost, what options are available to you, what cover selections you might be able to choose from, etc., go to our albums page. It's going to outline all of those things for you, answer some FAQs, that type of thing. So keeping the pricing transparent, what you offer, what their costs are, what's included, what's not included in the base investment, all of that stuff needs to be clearly communicated throughout the process to eliminate surprises. Are awesome. Those are the things that build your brand, lead to referrals, make the couple feel like $1 million. But negative surprises are going to wipe out all those other things. If you give cool gifts to your couples and you surprise them with things and all of that stuff, but then they have a negative experience with their album design meeting because they felt like you were just going after their money, it's going to wipe away all those other positive things you've done in the process. So another thing is the communication side of things. How and when we talk about this experience is important. And again, I recommend going through from the point of first conversation with the couple, pretty much at every touch point. On the wedding day, it might look like, you take a really awesome picture of the couple, you show the back of their camera and you say, hey guys, this is going to be like a full spread in your album. It's getting them thinking about having the album be the final destination of their images, not because you're trying to manipulate them into something, but it's like, you know, as a photographer, that printed images are going to be enjoyed a lot more than images that stay in somebody's gallery and then they get buried by cell phone pictures and all these other things. Physical prints are something that we know that our couples are going to fall in love with more and more over time. And then guiding the couple during the actual design meeting is incredibly important. So you get on a Zoom call with the couple or you meet in person, you start connecting about, you know, how has it been being married the past few weeks or months? You know, what was your favorite memory of the wedding day? You know, get them talking about the wedding day again, get them talking about, you know, how things have been since they got married, get them remembering, you know, those little moments that they might have, you know, needed their memory jogged for a little bit. All of that stuff is kind of transport them back into thinking about that special day that they really enjoyed. You know, I've been married for 18 years. We didn't have a good photographer on our wedding day. I wasn't a photographer at that point. We don't have good images. I don't remember my wedding day. It's not because I was drinking too much or anything like that, but memories fade over time. One of the big wins in having printed images, whether in an album or on your walls, is it makes your brain remember it more clearly. So communicating that to your couples throughout the process is important, but do that in the design meeting as well, just kind of priming them for this experience, why it's important, what the end goal is. So walking them through, hey, I'm going to show you a slideshow of the entire album that I've built. Remember, you get 20 pages in your album. I designed a bigger book. Here's why. You know, this is the cost for a larger album. This is the cost for size upgrade. This is the cost for all these things. You know, there's no pressure to add anything you don't want to add. You guys have the keys, but I've designed it in a way that beautifully tells the story of your day. So guide them through what the process is going to look like, then get started. You don't want them saying, oh, I didn't realize it was going to cost more. Again, that's a negative prize. It's your responsibility as a photographer to repeatedly tell them, you know, all of the important things so that they're not feeling like you pulled the rug out from under them. So during the meeting, you are the expert in this process. So when you're going through and saying, hey, I designed this page with this intention, the couple is going to say, oh, yeah, that makes sense. There are going to be times where maybe you have a page with the groomsmen on one spread and the bridesmaids on another spread. And they're like, hey, can we combine these as a way to cut down on the additional spreads that we're going to get? Sure. But then as you're doing that, you can help them lay that page out so that it tells a good story, things look nice. But you don't want to get to a point where you're like, no, I'm not going to do this. Because again, this album is going to be enjoyed forever by them. You're not going to see this album again. Once you deliver this album, you're on to the next client. You want the couple to ultimately be very happy with the final product. So be the guide, let them be the hero of their story, the whole, you know, being a story brand thing from Donald Miller. I'm sure you guys are familiar, but taking that position as the guide is going to be very helpful in this process. This is the final touch point they're going to have with your brand. This couple's final experience with you as their wedding photographer is going to be this album design meeting. So you want to make sure that this part really does shine and you're helping them create something that they're going to really cherish for the lifetime. So finishing it strong, helping them design this thing in a way that they're going to love is incredibly important. And then walking them through what the expectations are for when they actually are going to get their album, walk them through that delivery process. Every manufacturer is a little different. Some deliver within a couple of weeks, some take multiple months. So just make sure that you're communicating what the expectations are post-meeting. Any questions with that so far? Or is that all pretty straightforward?
When you are just doing that last design meeting, you making those changes live?
Yes.
Like when they say, hey, I want to put these guys on the same page?
Yep. I use Fundy. So I have Fundy opened up on my screen and I'm doing the slideshow in Fundy and then we're going through page by page and making any changes. One of the things I do, and I find this to be really helpful, is I communicate to my couples that I'm going to show them the slideshow. They don't need to think at all about which spreads they like or which ones they don't or which ones they want to change. I tell them we're going to get to that after the slideshow. I just want them to enjoy it as I designed it. But then as we go through spread by spread, I want them to give me a thumbs up. Keep it. This is exactly what we're looking for this one. Thumbs down, which means we're deleting this thing completely. Or, hey, let's make some changes. It might just be, hey, I like this other picture of this moment better, and we swap that out. But once we leave that page, we really don't want to come back to it. So I'm doing this with that spread taking up the whole screen. I'm not doing it in thumbnail view where a couple could say, hey, let's go to page 16, 17 right now, and then they're bouncing to 3, 4. I want to go through in a logical way because it's going to show more of a story of the day. And as we design these albums, we want it to be more of a story format, not bouncing from thing to thing.
Sweet, mate. Cool. Yeah, I'll got some general comments but I'll say that till the end to not ruin your flow.
No. So how albums can lead to referrals. This is something that a lot of photographers probably intuitively know, but they don't necessarily apply to their workflow. And like in business, I'm sure you guys all experience this, where you hear of some sort of strategy or technique or workflow improvement. You hear it, you don't apply it, and then you hear it again and you're like, I already know that, right? I do it all the time. I'll be listening to a podcast and I'm like, oh yeah, I heard that before. And I'm like, Nathan, you idiot. Like, you haven't actually applied this to your business. So thinking you know it, you nowhere unless you're actually doing the work. Helping your couples get to the outcome that they want shows them that you value their needs more than your wants. That's kind of dovetailing off of that final touch point thing that we just talked about. You want to make sure that they feel like you're on their team and that you're trying to have them have success in the process. That's going to lead to that final experience with you being as positive as possible. It's going to lead to Google reviews, Facebook reviews, the not reviews, if you still do that. But all these things where you're wanting them to leave reviews and also recommend you to their friends. This is part of that process. They're also going to show off the final product. So make sure you're getting your albums from a company that you are very proud of. We work with a variety of manufacturers on the Storybook side because our photographers use the album manufacturer that they want to. And I've seen books from different manufacturers. They're not all the same. So make sure that you're actually seeing the books that you're delivering your clients. I'm not saying have them all shipped to you and then ship them to the couple. That doesn't make any sense. But you want to at least see the first couple that come through to make sure they're living up to your standards, that the print quality aligns with your calibration on your screen and all that stuff. That's important because they're going to be showing this off to their friends and family. And if people are like, oh, these don't quite look the way I thought they were going to, or this isn't really a quality product, that's going to reflect on you, not on the couple. So keep that in mind.
Is there some platform or something where someone is looking at different album companies, like hopefully objectively, and particularly like, I don't know, 2 years on from having the album, and they're like, all right, this is how each album is held up. And these are the things that each album company does differently. I feel like when you're choosing an album company, it could be pretty hard, typically, even just being able to see the samples. You might just be looking at online images and then investing the future of your albums that are so expensive that are going to the homes of couples for so many years based off, I don't know, a few pictures. Yeah. Typically, people don't have the experience going with multiple album companies for even that recommendation. But the other reason I ask is, like, say, when I first started, I got albums through Zeno, and they looked all right on arrival, but then like I bought some sample albums, and then a year later they were like bowed and so shit, and then I felt terrible for the couples that I'd sent albums to. They're like, oh my god, these are absolute it's absolute trash. I understand they're probably better now, but yeah, is there that of some kind of, I don't know, YouTube account platform where someone's like,
I don't know.
Actually, the
That's
difference
a
of
great
albums.
question. I don't have that resource. I know that companies that use foam or paper cores to their images or to their spreads, if there's any type of humidity or temperature fluctuation, they are going to work. There are some companies, the company that I use for myself is Blacksmith. Their substrates are, the core of their pages, it's PVC. So it doesn't react to humidity, because I realized that I didn't want to have, I'm in Pennsylvania, summers are humid, people have their AC on, and sometimes AC with type of humidity can cause some issues. I don't want my couples dealing with their pages going like this. I have an album here. These pages from this album company that I'm not going to mention, they are warped just in my office, and I'm in a temperature controlled office. But that is something that's important. Also, knowing what's going to happen when you pick a manufacturer, knowing what's going to happen if there is a defect to the album is very important, because if UPS or FedEx or the Postal Service or whoever ships the album and the mail carrier that day is throwing boxes around and it wasn't packaged properly, and then it gets to the couple and it's kind of beat up, they're going to message you, or if you're working with us, they're going to message their designer, and that couple is going to be like, hey, this got destroyed. How do we solve this? Well, we know certain manufacturers, if we go back to them and say, hey, this got beat to crap when it got shipped, some will say, oh, well, we can reprint it and give you 30% off. Others are going to say, hey, I'm going to overnight an album to you today. Or they'll send it to the couple with a note that says, hey, so sorry about what happened. Here's a Starbucks gift card. Go buy yourself a coffee, right? That's what my album manufacturer is going to do, which is one of the reasons I use them and trust them. But some of these other, massive companies that are pumping out albums, it's kind of like a sucks for you type of situation. So
yeah, man, I think there's definitely room for a breakdown of, right, like this is, I don't know, a 10 by 10 square album is the cost. These are the things to look out for. And particularly, you're right, the guarantee. And that's something that Sam, I'm sure she's like dying to jump in here, but her album company that she uses, Brilliant Prints in Australia, they had a 75-year guarantee, which includes accidental damage. So if you freaking spill a glass of red wine on it, 70 years later, still do a reprint, which is insane.
Yeah, the company that I also use, they have a few linen options. And the linen options are treated with like Scotch Guard. So you can pour liquid right on them and it just rolls right off. So do your research. When you're picking out an album company, we have a page on the Storybook site for when studios come to us and they say, hey, I've never done albums before. I don't know who to use. Who do you think I should pick? We have this page on our site that has 4 different companies that we recommend. They do really nice albums, good customer service behind them. People can look at the different options and figure out what makes sense based on the quality that they're looking for, the price point they're looking for, what customer service is like. That's a resource that we have for 4 companies. There are 100 album manufacturer companies. We're not going to do that for 100 companies right now. It's a good idea for the future, though. I like that. Picking the right manufacturer is an important part of this process. Whether you're doing this on your own or you're outsourcing it, you want to have some control over what product is being delivered. So another way that you can use albums to lead to referrals is you design this gorgeous album for a couple. You love how it turned out. The day was gorgeous. The album was gorgeous. If it's at a venue that you want to work at, hit up the coordinator or the venue owner and say, hey, I just got finished designing Kevin and Brittany's album. Turned out phenomenal. I would love to make a copy for you guys as well and drop it off. Would that be of interest to you? 9 out of 10 times they're going to say, yeah, that would be awesome. So what I do for those situations is I'll generate a QR code and put it on the last page of the album. That QR code goes to the venue page on my website. So if a couple is touring the venue, they flip through the thing, oh, this is nice, whatever. Then they click that QR code. It goes to that page I have on my site that I talked about earlier. Then they're like, holy cow, this photographer must be here often because they have a dedicated page for that venue on their website.
I do that exact thing.
I'm not going to create 4 albums for a venue. Once I have a good, solid album there, I'll keep it there for a few years. Hopefully you're working at more than one venue. So that helps out a lot. The other thing that's awesome is albums help create really nice marketing material for your business. So you're just getting started with albums and you're doing this all on your own, have the first one that you design for a client, have it shipped to you first, unbox it, take some beautiful pictures of it. That'll be great fodder for your website, for your albums page on your website, because you're showcasing your work inside of an album and you can do a lot of creative things with that. One of the other things that's really effective, and we have all of our studios do this through Storybook, is have that first one shipped to you, and then you personally take it to the couple. You get their permission first, of course. You coordinate this. We walk you through how to do that. But take it to them and then film them unboxing it for the first time, sitting down on their couch, flipping through page by page, feeling all the feels, the laughing, the crying. Film that. And then you put that on your website. And then when other couples see that, they're like, no, we have to have this thing. I want to feel what that couple is feeling. And it's just a really great resource that you just do one time and you have all of that content for future things. Put it on social media, do whatever you want. So you can use that for social media. You can use it for better content on your website. Also, parent albums, depending on what manufacturer you go with, you get discounts for duplicate albums. So a lot of our studios will do duplicate parent albums for the parents, obviously. Those parents get those albums. They take them to work. They take them to their friend's house. They show off their kid's wedding. Well, the people they're showing them to, they have kids, probably around the same age that these parents are. And they're like, hey, you guys are getting married soon. Check out this photographer. I just saw this album from so-and-so. So those types of things will help get your work out there more than just your website. There are many ways other than that to do referrals, but these are just a few of the ways that I found to be pretty effective. But again, at the end of the day, the experience that you deliver the client has to align with everything else that you're doing, because again, crappy experience is not going to lead to referrals. It's kind of like when I was an electrician back in the day, one of the foremen of the jobs that I was on was, it takes 100 attaboys to cancel out 10 shit, right? So like you screw something up big on a job and you have 100 positive things. Well, you're going to ultimately be remembered in that moment for the thing you screwed up versus the positive things you do. So you need to be very consistent throughout your entire experience. There are still some photographers that are going to go through that entire thing. They're going to say, yes, Nathan, I know that this is something that I need to do. This is something that I want to do. I just don't have time. I'm already stressed with all of the other parts of running my business. I don't like sales. I don't want to. Well, Storybook Design Co. is a done for you solution. And when I say done for you, I mean we onboard photographers. Once they're onboarded, they submit their couples when they book. So they go in and they say, hey, Tom and Sue got engaged and they booked with me. Here's their wedding date. Here's the location. Here's their contact information, a few more things. And then it's completely hands off until the gallery is done. And then they go in and they update the gallery. That entire process that we just went over, Storybook Design Co. is handling. Our dedicated designer is connecting with the couple, doing the nurturing throughout the entire process, walking them through what to expect. If the couple didn't get an album in their package, there are some opportunities for the couple to add it later on. For the couples that do ultimately get an album, we are connecting with them to schedule their design meeting. We're designing the album. We're meeting with them. We're collecting payment for you. We're ordering the album. We're making things available to parents. We're doing wall art. We're doing the entire process that I just outlined. You don't have to lift a finger for it. Magic money shows up in your account. You win. Everybody's happy. Couple wins. They're getting their album of their dreams. We win because you're telling all of your friends about us and getting them onboarded. And it's just a great, happy process for everybody. So just imagine having a dedicated employee that handles your entire process for albums and wall art, who cares for your clients the way that you do, maybe at times even a little bit better, but you don't have to deal with payroll. You don't have to deal with, keeping them busy full time. You don't have to deal with all these other things. It's that way for Storybook. You have a dedicated designer, but they're being managed by our team. And all they're doing for you is all things album related, right? So your couples get a luxury experience out of that. It grows your brand, automatically without having to lift a finger. You wake up in the morning, you get an email notification from us that a couple invested $4,500 or whatever. Some sales are zero, some sales are 5,000 plus, and everything in between. You find out the couple had an amazing time in the call. They're so grateful for that experience. And then that keeps happening, right? That would create an experience for you that is a win. Like, can you think of any downsides to having this happen in a way that doesn't require you to do anything, right? So one of the things that we kind of rest our hat on, if you will, is every single studio that has ever onboarded with Storybook is still a client today. We've never had somebody that onboarded with us and then got to a point where they're like, yeah, this isn't really working for me, or it's not really creating the experience I want for my clients. It's not actually making me money. It's set up to succeed for photographers of all genres and price points, etc. So when we have a studio that fires us because it's not working, I'm going to be pretty bummed that I can't say that anymore. But until then, I'm going to milk that for all it's worth. Ultimately, anybody that's watching this, whether live or in the future, if this sounds like something that you want to take advantage of and you want to explore what it looks like to have Storybook handle this entire process for you, you can scan this QR code. Okay, that'll take you to the Storybook website. You can fill out the contact form, say, hey, I found you on Wedding Workflows. And ultimately, we'll hop on a call with you. We'll walk you through what our process looks like. It's a lot of figuring out what you're currently doing, figuring out the clientele that you serve, because ultimately, we are not just cookie cuttering this thing for all of the photographers we work with. We're going to listen to what your individual needs are, who your couples are, what price point you're at, what your volume is, and we're going to develop a strategy that's based on a framework, but it's going to be uniquely designed for you, right? So part of that process that you need to know now is that your couples never know Storybook exists. In their mind, they're dealing with an employee at your company. We're going to have an albums email at your domain, so albums@businessname.com. And when we're interacting with them, they're interacting with the same designer every single time. So when you get on that sales call with your couple early on in the process and you're like, hey, Lauren's going to be reaching out to you to kind of walk you through what the albums process looks like. She's my dedicated album designer. It does a couple things. It communicates to your couples that albums are a big enough process in your business that you have a dedicated person handling it, right? It makes your business look bigger than it might actually be. So it's entirely white labeled. They'll never hear about Storybook. Okay. We work on commission. So we don't have like a monthly subscription or anything like that. When you are winning, we win, right? We're going to care for the client that invests nothing the same way that we care for the client that's investing, $5,000 or $8,000 in their album. We've set up our system so that that happens across the board. We work on a commission basis. It works, right? We also have a rapid feedback loop because we're meeting with way more couples than any individual studio can. Every time we have things go really well, we're studying that. If things didn't go as great as we expected, we're looking back on that data and we're making changes, we're updating things, we're improving our workflows so that over time, everybody gets the benefit of that. If you're doing 4 or 5 album meetings a year, you're not going to have that same feedback loop that we have in a week, right? Or in a matter of days sometimes. So you get that benefit of that feedback loop when you work with us, right? So scan the QR code, check out a little bit more on our site. If it is something that you want to explore, again, there's no risk in scheduling a call with me. We'll talk about your individual wants and needs and the clients you serve. That is everything that I had prepared today. I know we'll get into questions in a second, but if you reach out, make sure you mention Wedding Workflows, get 15% off the setup fee to get your account set up with us so that we can start working with your couples and serving you at a high level. And of course, if you're watching this later on and you just have general questions about IPS, how to do it, what works, what doesn't work, I'm happy to have a conversation with you as well. Just find me on Facebook or shoot me an email. I'm happy to answer those questions as well. So that's everything. Rick, take it away.
Fantastic. And there's nothing you're saying that I could literally disagree with. Do you agree that IPS would result in more sales? I don't think it would. And because it's not, just then IPS doesn't just lead to more sales, but also leads to your work in the hearts and homes of your couples, right? Which, in your words, is the final destination, which I quite liked. So then the second part is like, are you doing it? So if you agree it works, are you doing it? No. Will you do it? Like if you haven't done it all these years, do you really consider yourself doing it? So that's why I love this solution, because it's obviously IPS done for you. And then when anything that's done for you, I love to look at the return on investment of time. So I think it'd be hard to replicate the kind of return on investment you'd be getting by outsourcing IPS, because the time investment there would be setting up a meeting with you, having that chat, maybe making a new email address. But we're talking, very small amount of time versus then an exceptional return on the additional revenue that you're bringing in. And as a wedding photographer or even, I don't know, portrait photographer, basically as a photographer, you can only earn money in 2 ways. You can either do more shoots or you can earn more per shoot.
Right.
So this is probably one of the easiest, highest return ways to earn more per shoot is to outsource IPS, which I think we can learn from portrait photographers is, yes, it definitely does. It does work and it definitely does result in more sales. A few things you've mentioned in there, even like your electrician story about it takes 100 attaboys to cancel that one, and how people do remember like a bad experience. There's this guy, Simon, who's leads our Yarra Rangers Council. Anyway, we're having a chat, and I mentioned I was a wedding photographer, the first thing he was just dying to bring up was his experience with his wedding photographer. And then they got married like 20 years ago. And then the album sales experience and how it was on a cinema and they had a bottle of wine and how it was like the push to buy the album and the upgrade package. So his entire experience of wedding photography was based on this pushy upsell process, which he then has spent the last 20 years talking about anytime wedding photography comes up. So yeah, I love the doing everything you can to avoid that, I think is right up there. I wanted to ask if you had any experience with incentivizing couples to film their own album reveals. So outside of like that one that you do at the beginning where you deliver it and you film it yourself, I feel like if you're constantly getting videos coming through on your social media of couples looking at their albums, then it's like setting that expectation for all your future couples, like, oh, that will be us. We want to feel that way. And I can see that it's a thing that Rick's couples do.
I mean, you're always going to be at the risk that your couples take crappy video, it's crappy lighting. You don't have control over the angle and the audio and all of that stuff. But like, if most of them are pretty spot on, then great. One of the things you could do is say, hey, I'll send you this wall art credit or something if you film your album opening experience or something that has a high perceived value and low actual value. You don't want to be saying, hey, I'll send you 2 free parent albums if you do this, because that's going to cost you a lot.
Yeah. So what about maybe there was like a spread that they were on the fence about getting? It's like, all right, I'll tell you what, I'll include that extra spread if you film your reaction video when you get the album.
It's all the fear that everybody has is if I give the reward away before I get what I need, I'm probably not going to get what I need. That can be a fallacy, but
I think that is a fallacy. I think people generally want to fulfill their commitments that they've made. Otherwise, what does it say about them? And so kind of getting that commitment early.
It's the whole scarcity mentality versus the abundance mentality. If you're always thinking that people are out to screw you, you're going to project that to the relationships you have. A couple other things I forgot to mention, but are maybe helpful nuggets for people that want to do this on their own. Figure out a way to offer payment plans to your couples. If you have a couple that wants to invest $5,000 in their album, but they don't have $5,000 right now, offer them a way to do monthly payments and send them the album right away, right? So collect a deposit of, 500 or 750 or whatever, and then do monthly installments. That's really helpful because sometimes, people, have good monthly income, but they spend it all every month and they don't have, $5,000 sitting around and their cards are maxed out. Just makes it really easy for them to say yes to something. We haven't had anybody that started a monthly plan like that and like put a stop on their credit card. It just hasn't happened. And we're doing it way more than you're ever going to do it.
Yeah, great. That's great.
So our designers are stateside, right? So at the moment, we do the United States and Canada. If we get to a point where we have enough demand somewhere else, we explore having the designer, doing sales calls for that time zone. We can explore that. But right now it's the United States and Canada.
Yeah, this is great because honestly, if it was here, I'd be signing up because I am that person that agrees IPS works and B doesn't want to do it. So literally at the beginning, you're like, why don't people
remind
do it?
me what's the because like the reality is it would be a lot easier for us to serve you than to serve Europe.
Europe, yeah.
Because ultimately our designer could get up early in the morning and meet with a client at 7 p.m. your time a lot easier than they want to meet with a client in Europe. So
yeah. No, I mean, I think it's a fantastic service. And so actually, like I mentioned earlier, I started an album company myself that did but it wasn't going to do it was just kind of like the design and the sales and on an automated side of things, but it definitely wasn't going to do the IPS, which is what I love so much about this. And I think you're absolutely right. I can't disagree with any point you've made in terms of having somebody a part of your team that does that actually makes it a great way to even make your studio look even bigger, that you have this dedicated person that's working on albums, which I think makes sense to a lot of photographers. Hey, I'm a great photographer. That's where my zone of genius is. Not the best designer. That's why I have someone who loves designing albums and they're going to be working with you.
Right. One other thing worth noting is we're in the process of putting together some training materials for the VAs that you guys are working with so that if this is something you want to have them do when you book a client, have them enter your client information into our system, they'll know how to do that really easily, both the initial entering that information in and then updating the gallery when it's ready. So if you want to have it even more hands-off for you, go for it. Even if you don't, that process for both times takes less than 2 minutes. So it's not like if you don't do that, it's all of a sudden going to be this taxing time suck for you. That's not the case.
Sam, what would it take? Let's say we had an Australian lab and someone willing to, whatever you would need in terms of setting up something for the Australian, New Zealand market. What would that process look like for you?
Yeah. So let's say tomorrow we're working with Australian photographers. You would schedule a discovery call with me. I would make myself available for time slots that align with your schedule. We would get on the phone. I would basically learn more about your studio, the types of couples you're serving. If you're doing an albums process currently, I would figure out what that is, because oftentimes when a studio onboards with us, they are doing albums in an inefficient way currently. And they might have 5 or 6 couples that have purchased an album. And we basically have to know where those couples are at in the process so that we can take the reins, introduce this new workflow that's going to serve them better. How do we communicate it to them? So there's some things that we have to do custom for those photographers. But once you're completely onboarded, pause. If you decide to onboard with us, we have a service agreement that we send you. You take care of the onboarding fee, and we send you a questionnaire that gets some preliminary information about your studio. We then get to work behind the scenes to set up your studio portal. And then once that part is done, we send you a scheduling link to get on an onboarding call with me. Typically lasts about an hour. We go over what pricing is going to be, who your album manufacturer is going to be, kind of what we're going to need you to do in this process to get everything set up. So that might be like setting up a Stripe account so that we can collect payments that go into your account. There might be some things like that. So it's kind of walking you through what that process looks like. Once that's done, there's about 10 or 15 hours worth of work on our end to finish setting up your portal. Then we send you an email with portal access. We've already gone over how to use it and all that stuff. It's very simple. You go in there and you can start submitting your clients regardless of what stage they're at in the process. You let us know anything specific that we need to know about them in the notes section. And then we start reaching out to them depending on where they are in the process. So if somebody's wedding is in a year from now, the email that we send them is going to be very different than somebody that got their gallery delivered a month ago and is ready to schedule their album design meeting. So we triage them manually to make sure that everybody is getting the right email. We only meet with couples that have purchased their base album. So we're not going to get into a design meeting with a couple that doesn't know if they want an album or not. That's a waste of time for you, for them, for us. They need to commit to that first investment for the base album first. So that's part of that. You book a client, you submit them. You shoot the wedding, you submit the gallery. It's that.
It doesn't matter if it's a new lab that you haven't worked with before.
If it's a new lab that we haven't worked with before, we basically either need you to walk us through how you typically order an album, or if it's a really intuitive process, we just create an account and we go in there and check it out on our own. We would be ordering all of your albums from your own account. So when the client pays you, it's going into your account. And then when we order the album, we're taking money from that same account. You have a card saved in the album manufacturer. We're using your card. So all the money is always on your end for tax purposes and all of that. That way, the couple isn't seeing a Storybook charge on our end. But all that being said, if we're working with a brand new manufacturer that we haven't worked with, there's some additional work that we have to do to get set up with that manufacturer. We would walk you through what that process looks like on a case-by-case basis, depending on who the manufacturer is and how complicated their system is.
All right. But it doesn't sound like there's a huge barrier for other countries other than the US and Canada coming on board.
If you're in Australia and this is something that you're seriously interested in, we'll explore it. I don't think finding a designer that can be up early is the end of the world. I think that that's definitely something that we can explore.
It's actually like these times that the couples are looking to have these meetings. I'm guessing that's after work, which is a tricky thing, right? Because our after work.
Typically when couples are doing these design meetings is 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock local time.
Anybody else have any questions for Nathan?
Tough crowd. No, I'm kidding. If you have questions that popped up, please reach out. I'm happy to answer. I'm not going to withhold information and say it's only for Storybook clients. We can all win here. I don't have to hoard information from you guys.
This has been great. I can't see why I wouldn't be on board. I have to like ask myself, like, why wouldn't I do this?
Yeah.
Do I see myself suddenly doing IPS myself? No. Do I think that IPS for some reason would not be working? No. So then why wouldn't I do it? Yeah, that's great, mate. Thank you so much for coming on board today and walking us through it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That's the ripper.
And I look forward to coming back and talking a little bit about Shoot With Me and how photographers can take a load of stress off their back by finding talent on Shoot With Me. So we'll discuss that another day.
Beautiful.
Cool.
All right. Peace out, everyone. On behalf of everyone watching this in the future, Nathan, thank you so much for walking us through all that. And honestly, I love to see great ideas come to life. Wanted to thank you again for coming over and saying, hey, when we met at WPPR, which is, you know, for everyone else, one of the great benefits of going to events like that. So that's how I met Nathan. So cool, bro. I'll see you again over there next year, and I'll see you even sooner in June, I believe.
Yeah. Perfect. Take care, guys.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
What'd you think, Sam? You got to turn your mic on, sorry. There we go.
Sorry, my phone has a cracked screen, so when I tap on it, it's not tapping. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I actually was talking to Dylan about this, and I think Dylan was talking to you recently about.
We were having a chat about getting custom products onto PicTime and Pixieset.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good idea, but I'm not sure that the time difference would work with getting photographers.
Well, yeah, they would basically have to have calls with couples in the Australian evenings, and so that would be the factor. Because if it was like, no, we can only talk to them before 8 a.m., then that's obviously not going to work.
And then the other thing is dealing with sort of like, I mean, if he's onboarding Australian photographers and using an Australian lab, there's always the things that come out of the blue with difficulties like delays in shipment or issues with production or changes to things, whether it can be done in a timely manner.
If you're constantly waiting for the next day every time there's a thing that comes up.
Exactly. With today's society, everything is a now, especially with clients when they want to have an answer straight away. If it's 1 day delay with them, then it's another day delay for that information back to your client. So that's a 2-day delay where when your business is talking about efficiency and customer service, a 2-day delay can be also factoring weekends can be a big issue.
Yeah, great point. Good point.
The other thing is I need to know what you want me to do for September.
For September, we're coming in on which part don't you know? How are you going to get the stuff? Or
yes. Yeah, the banners. And are you going to reprint so that Mark has the right name?
Right spelling. Poor Mark. Possibly would need a reprint anyway if we run out of those things.
How are you going? Other ones. You're going to all the other ones, right?
Yes, actually, and just yesterday I realized I booked my flights for the wrong date. Because originally Mark said that Adelaide was on the 2nd of June, and then he announced it, and I understood that the date had changed to the 16th, but I'd already had it in my calendar there, and I didn't update the calendar, so then I went to book my flights. I'm like, 2nd of June. I got to change my flight today, but yeah, I'll be heading to that one. My understanding would be that I can send the stuff to the Glenferrie Hotel, which is I think where Melbourne's one is. And have it available for pickup there. Well, actually, I don't even need to send it. I can just drop it off before I leave and say, hey, you got this event coming up. But I will get down to call them and actually make sure that's a possibility.
Or alternatively, if it's easier for you, you can just get it dropped or shipped to my brother's house. But he's in Nagambie. I'm not sure if that's even more trouble.
It's ages away. It's ages away. But is that where you're staying? No.
My brother's located in Nagambie, so I will
but
definitely
that's ages
be
away.
seeing him.
But I'll get you the room at the hotel where the event is. So you definitely will be seeing your brother. Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah, there's no way that I wouldn't see my brother. He's in the army.
Okay.
I take every chance I can to see him.
Got it. Okay.
I think it was good. I think that it actually helped people understand a bit better of what the process was.
Completely agree. Yeah.
Lauren and Peter over the to committing once I sent them my PDF.
Oh, you sent them. Oh, great. Awesome. Fantastic. Yeah. No, I still want to incorporate that onto the website. Cool. So is there anything else other than the flights, hotel, for like, I don't know, Ubers and whatever, just to send me the receipts and I'll reimburse you for all of it.
Oh, good.
And food.
Oh, I don't need you to pay for my food. I'm good.
No, if you're out of home, that's an out-of-pocket expense.
We'll talk about it later. That's not a priority in my mind. Just making sure that I actually have what I need to make sure that I can make a good go for you.
You know me well, Sam. No, Rick.
If anything, I'm very OCD, so I'm pretty sure that Barb's and Way have already realized that. Yeah, so I mean, if there's anything else that Barb's needs from me in regards to whether she needs me to talk to any of the photographers that she's reached out to, Wave's given you the link to book in a chat with me in regards to wedding workflow. So you're welcome to use that, send it out to those people who are sort of sitting on the shelf and not moving forward, if they need to have more of a push. And even if it's not the ones that I've sent you the information about, if you have any others that you need me to hop on board, just let me know. You've got the link, so just send it out and I'm happy to talk to anyone.
Thank you, Sam. I actually saved the link and I placed it in our Notion. So every single client that we have on board, there's basically access to a directory. And then at the very bottom, they get to book a call with you if they'd like on that one. And I also I've sent out the follow-up emails to all of those people that you talked to me about. They haven't reached back out yet. So I'll send another follow-up.
Yeah, because once the hoopla of PPN night has finished, they sort of sit back on their laurels and then they move on with what they're doing and they forget. So it's important to keep pushing. They don't really, it's like Lauren and Peter, I've actually been talking to them about this for nearly 6 months before and then it's only now that they've actually embraced it. I was with Lauren last night for dinner and she's very happy with her VA right now. She's just kind of lost in regards to what task to start her on and how to get things moving because she's having a busy time in her life right now. So I've had a discussion with her last night about how she can better utilize her time and her VA's time. So hopefully they'll start getting more positive, but she's definitely happy with her VA right now. So that's a good sign. I also might have another photographer that's inside our group that is thinking because her issue is that she wants someone to do IPS. So I'm not sure whether that's something that you guys have a VA that can do.
I feel like that would be like a domestic role. What about you?
Well, I've already got Way doing my IPS. So how I've done it is very, very simple. I've created a product and pricing sort of PDF with Way, which has all my products, all the options and all that. She sends it out to the client. The client then says, oh yeah, I'm interested in getting an album. She sends out pre-done email templates that I've created with her to walk them through just exactly like what Nathan says, walk them through the initial process, what the options are, what the costings are. And then it comes back to her and then she just sends them like, this is what your selections are. She goes through the selections by email. Everything's done by email. There's no need for her to actually be in person.
Because that's the expectation that I think people would have if we said we did IPS, is that then they would be on a call running them through that.